Princess Zara slammed her fist against the crystal wall. The sound echoed through the long hallway of the royal palace. Her blue scales turned bright red with anger. She could not believe what her mother had just told her. "Mom, why do I have to wed a human?" she had yelled at Queen Nexira just moments ago. The words still rang in her ears. Zara was 7 feet tall and very strong. Her people, the Valkyrians, were proud and powerful. They ruled 3 star systems. They had the best ships in the galaxy. They had won many wars. So why would they need to make peace with humans? The princess walked fast through the palace halls. Her heavy footsteps made the crystal floors shake. Servants moved out of her way. Quickly, they had never seen her so angry before. Queen Nexira followed behind her daughter. The old queen was even taller than Zara. Her scales were dark green with age. She had ruled for over 300 years. She was wise and knew many things about war and peace. "Zara, please listen to me," the queen said. Her voice was calm and steady. "This marriage is important for our people." Zara spun around to face her mother. Her yellow eyes blazed with fury. "Important? How can marrying a human be important? They are weak. They live for only 80 years. They have no scales to protect them. They cannot even lift a Valkyrian sword." The queen sighed. She had expected this reaction from her daughter. Zara was young and proud. She did not understand the ways of politics yet. "Sit down, my child," Queen Nexira said. She pointed to a crystal bench near a large window. "Let me explain." Zara did not want to sit. She wanted to break something, but she respected her mother. Slowly, she sat down on the bench. Her tail swished back and forth with anger. The queen sat next to her daughter. Through the window, they could see the capital city of Velkros. Tall crystal towers reached up to the purple sky. Flying ships moved between the buildings like silver fish. 2 years ago, we started a war with the human colonies, Queen Nexira began. We thought it would be easy. Humans seemed weak and primitive. We expected to win in a few months. Zara nodded. She remembered when the war started. Everyone in the palace was excited. They thought the humans would surrender quickly. But the humans did not surrender. The queen continued. They fought back, in ways we did not expect. They used strange tactics. They turned their own ships into weapons. They fought even when they had no chance to win. The princess frowned. She had heard some reports from the war front. The Valkyrian generals had seemed confused and worried. This was unusual for her people. "We lost many good ships," Queen Nexira said sadly. "We lost many brave soldiers. The war was costing us too much. Our enemies in other star systems began to think we were weak." "But we are not weak," Zara said loudly. "We are the strongest race in the galaxy." "Yes, we are strong," her mother agreed. "But the humans showed us something we did not expect. They showed us that being weak in body does not mean being weak in spirit." Zara did not understand. How could weak creatures defeat the mighty Valkyrian fleet? Queen Nexira stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the city below. "I have chosen a human for you to marry. His name is Jake Morrison. He is a captain in their defense fleet." The name meant nothing to Zara. She had never heard of this human before. "He is the one who destroyed 3 of our battle cruisers at the Centauri station," the queen said. "He used an old cargo ship and some mining explosives. Our generals still do not understand how he did it." Zara's scales turned from red to orange. This was a sign of confusion among her people. "One human destroyed 3 of our ships?" "Yes. And that was not the only time. This Jake Morrison has defeated us again and again. He thinks in ways that our military minds cannot predict." The princess stood up and began pacing again. This news troubled her. How could one small human be so dangerous? "The human leaders chose him to represent their people in this marriage," Queen Nexira explained. "They trust him. They respect him. If we can make an alliance with the humans through this marriage, we will gain access to their unusual way of thinking." "But mother," Zara said, "I do not want to marry anyone yet, and especially not a human. What will the other noble families think? What will our allies say?" The queen turned to face her daughter. Her expression was serious. "They will say that Queen Nexira is wise, They will say that she found a way to turn enemies into friends. They will say that she secured peace without losing honor. Zara sat down again. Her head was spinning with all this information. She had always thought humans were nothing more than annoying insects. Now her mother was telling her that one human had outsmarted their best generals. "What is he like?" she asked quietly. "I do not know," Queen Nixira admitted, "but I have heard interesting things. They say he is calm in battle. They say his soldiers follow him anywhere. They say he treats prisoners with respect, even when they have tried to kill him." The princess closed her eyes. She tried to imagine what this human looked like. In her mind, she saw a small pink creature with no scales and tiny teeth. The image made her feel sick. "When will he arrive?" she asked. "In 3 days," her mother replied. "There will be a formal meeting in the Great Hall. All the noble families will attend. You will meet your future husband in front of the entire court." Zara's scales turned bright red again. 3 days was not much time to prepare for such a terrible fate. "Can I refuse?" she asked hopefully. Queen Nixira shook her head. "The arrangements have already been made. The human ship is already on its way. To refuse now would be a great insult. It might even restart the war." The princess felt trapped. She was the heir to the Valkyrian throne. Her duty was to her people, even if it meant sacrificing her own happiness. "Will I have to live on Earth?" she asked. The thought of leaving her beautiful crystal world made her even more upset. "No," her mother said. "Jake Morrison will live here on Velcros. He will become a Valkyrian prince through marriage. His children with you will inherit both human and Valkyrian blood." Zara tried to imagine little half-human children running through the palace. The idea seemed strange and wrong. "I need time to think," she said finally. Queen Nixira nodded. "I understand. But remember, my daughter, sometimes the greatest strength comes from accepting what we cannot change. This human may surprise you." As the queen left, Zara remained sitting on the crystal bench. She looked out at the purple sky and wondered what her life would be like with a human husband. Everything she had ever believed about strength and power was being challenged. In 3 days, she would meet Jake Morrison. In 3 days, her life would change forever. Jake Morrison stepped off the small human ship and looked around. The Valkyrian spaceport was huge. Crystal towers stretched up so high he could not see their tops. Everything sparkled in the purple light of the alien sun. He was not alone. Lieutenant Amy Foster walked beside him. She was his best officer and his friend. Amy had volunteered to come with him on this dangerous mission. "Stay calm," Jake whispered to Amy. "Remember what we practiced." Amy nodded. She was nervous but tried not to show it. Around them, Valkyrian guards stood watching. Each guard was 7 feet tall with blue scales and yellow eyes. They carried weapons that could kill a human with one shot. A tall Valkyrian in golden robes approached them. His scales were bright green and he wore many jewels. "I am Lord Kazex," he said in perfect English. "I will take you to meet Princess Zara." Jake bowed slightly. This was the human way to show respect. "Thank you, Lord Kazex. I am Captain Jake Morrison. This is Lieutenant Amy Foster." Lord Kazex looked at Amy with surprise. "Why did you bring a female soldier? Valkyrian females do not fight. Human females fight alongside human males," Jake explained calmly. "Amy is one of our best officers." The Valkyrian lord seemed confused but said nothing more. He led them through the crystal corridors of the spaceport. Other Valkyrians stopped to stare at the humans. Some pointed and whispered. Jake could feel their eyes on him but kept walking with confidence. They entered a flying vehicle that moved without making any sound. Jake looked out the window as they flew over the alien city. The buildings were beautiful, but strange. Everything was made of crystal and metal. There were no plants or trees anywhere. "Your world is very different from Earth," Jake said to Lord Kazex. "Yes," the Lord replied. "We do not waste time on useless things like plants. We build for strength and power." Jake nodded but said nothing. He was already learning about Valkyrian culture. They arrived at the royal palace. It was the biggest building Jake had ever seen. Crystal walls rose up like mountains. Guards stood everywhere. Flying ships patrolled the sky above. Inside the palace was even more impressive. The halls were wide enough for 20 people to walk side by side. The ceilings were so high they disappeared into darkness. Everything was clean and perfect. "The princess is waiting in the great hall," Lord Kazakh said. "There will be many noble families present. You must show proper respect." They walked for 10 minutes through the crystal corridors. Finally, they reached 2 huge doors made of silver metal. The doors opened without anyone touching them. The great hall was enormous. Hundreds of Valkyrians stood along the walls. They all stared at Jake and Amy as they entered. At the far end of the hall on a raised platform sat 2 thrones. Queen Nexira sat on the larger throne. She was the biggest Valkyrian Jake had ever seen. Her dark green scales showed her great age. Her yellow eyes seemed to look right through him. On the smaller throne sat Princess Zara. Jake was surprised by what he saw. She was beautiful in an alien way. Her blue scales changed color in the light. Her yellow eyes were bright with intelligence. But her expression showed anger and disgust. Jake walked slowly across the hall. His boots made small clicking sounds on the crystal floor. Every step echoed in the huge space. He could feel hundreds of eyes watching his every move. When he reached the platform, Jake stopped and bowed. This was deeper than the bow he had given Lord Kazakh's. It showed great respect for royalty. "Your Majesty," he said to Queen Nexira, "thank you for welcoming me to your world." Then he turned to Princess Zara and bowed again. "Your Highness, I am honored to meet you." Princess Zara said nothing. She just stared at him with cold eyes. Queen Nexira stood up. "Captain Morrison, you are welcome in our palace. We hope this marriage will bring peace between our peoples." "That is my hope as well, Your Majesty," Jake replied. A Valkyrian noble near the wall laughed loudly. "Look how small he is. Does he even weigh 100 pounds? Other nobles began to whisper and point. Jake heard comments about his size, his smooth skin, and his strange appearance. Some Valkyrians made jokes about humans being weak and stupid. Jake remained calm. He had expected this reaction. He looked directly at Princess Zara and spoke clearly. "Your Highness, I know I must seem very different to you. I know humans appear weak compared to Valkyrians, but I hope you will give me a chance to prove that strength comes in many forms." Princess Zara finally spoke. Her voice was cold and sharp. "What strength could you possibly have, human? You have no scales for protection. You have no claws for fighting. You will die of old age before I am even middle-aged." The hall became very quiet. Everyone waited to see how Jake would respond to this insult. Jake smiled. "You are right, Your Highness. I am not strong like a Valkyrian. I cannot lift a boulder or tear metal with my hands. But humans have learned to be strong in other ways." "What ways?" Princess Zara demanded. "We are strong in our minds," Jake said. "We are strong in our hearts. We do not give up even when everything seems hopeless." A large Valkyrian warrior stepped forward from the crowd. His scales were dark red and he carried a huge sword. "Pretty words from a tiny creature," he said mockingly. "But words do not win battles." Jake turned to face the warrior. "You are right. Sir, actions matter more than words." The warrior laughed. "I am General Vorthak. I have killed 1,000 enemies in battle." "What have you done, little human?" Jake's expression remained calm. "I have done my duty to protect my people, General, just as you have done yours." "Your duty?" General Vorthak laughed louder. "You mean hiding behind asteroids and running away from real fights?" Jake's eyes hardened slightly, but his voice stayed steady. "I mean using every tool available to defend those who cannot defend themselves." Princess Zara leaned forward on her throne. She was curious to see how this small human would handle the general's mockery. "General Vorthak," Jake said, "if you believe humans are so weak, perhaps you would accept a challenge?" The hall became completely silent. No one had expected the human to challenge the greatest Valkyrian warrior. General Vorthak's scales turned bright red with excitement. "You want to fight me, little human?" I will break every bone in your soft body. I propose a contest, Jake said calmly. You may choose the weapons and the rules. If I lose, I will admit publicly that humans are weak and unworthy of respect. And if you win, the general asked with amusement, then perhaps your highness and your people will consider that humans might have some value after all. Princess Zara looked at her mother. Queen Nexira nodded slightly. Very well, Princess Zara announced. General Vorthak, you may choose the terms of this contest. The general thought for a moment. He wanted to humiliate this human completely. We will fight with traditional Valkyrian blades. No armor. First blood wins. Jake nodded. I accept. Amy stepped forward. Captain, are you sure about this? It's okay, Amy, Jake whispered. Trust me. Two servants brought weapons to the center of the hall. The Valkyrian blades were heavy and curved. They were designed for creatures with great strength. Jake picked up one of the swords. It was much heavier than any human weapon. He tested its weight and balance. The blade was sharp enough to cut through steel. General Vorthak picked up his sword easily. In his huge hands, it looked like a small knife. He swung it through the air with perfect control. Ready to die, human? The general asked. Jake took a fighting stance. It was not the traditional Valkyrian style. It was something the aliens had never seen before. I'm ready to defend the honor of my people, Jake replied. The fight began. General. Vorthak attacked with tremendous force. His sword moved like lightning. But Jake was not there when the blade arrived. He had rolled to the side and struck at the general's leg. The general barely blocked the attack. He was surprised by Jake's speed. For 10 minutes, they fought across the crystal floor. General Vorthak used his great strength to deliver powerful blows, but Jake used speed and cleverness to avoid them. He attacked from unexpected angles. He used the general's own strength against him. The Valkyrian nobles watched in amazement. They had never seen anyone fight their greatest warrior to a standstill. Finally, Jake saw his chance. As General Vorthak raised his sword for a killing blow, Jake dropped to one knee and thrust upward. His blade touched the general's throat, drawing a single drop of blue blood. The hall erupted in shocked silence. First blood to the human, Queen Nexira announced. General Vorthak stepped back and lowered his weapon. He looked at Jake with new respect. You fight well for such a small creature. Jake bowed to the general. You honor me with such a challenge. General Vorthak, I have learned much about Valkyrian skill today. Princess Zara stared at Jake in amazement. This small, weak human had just defeated the greatest warrior in the kingdom. How was it possible? Jake walked back to Princess Zara's throne and bowed again. Your Highness, I hope I have shown that humans may be small, but we are not without value. For the first time, Princess Zara looked at Jake without disgust in her eyes. Instead, there was curiosity and perhaps a tiny bit of respect. You have surprised us today, Captain Morrison, she said quietly. Perhaps there is more to humans than I first believed. Princess Zara sat in the palace library reading about Earth. The crystal walls around her were covered with books and data screens. She had been studying human history for 3 weeks now. What she learned surprised her more each day. Jake Morrison had been living in the palace during this time. Queen Nexira had given him rooms in the East Wing. He spent his days meeting with Valkyrian nobles and learning their customs. He was always polite and respectful, even when they were rude to him. Zara turned a page in the book she was reading. It was about something called World War II. She read about how humans had fought each other with great violence. But what amazed her was how they had also shown great kindness to their enemies after the war ended. They rebuilt the cities they had destroyed, she said to herself. They helped their former enemies become strong again. Why would they do such a thing? On Velcros, when one group defeated another, the winners took everything. The losers were made into slaves or killed. It was the natural way of things. But humans seemed to think differently. A soft sound made her look up. Jake Morrison stood in the doorway of the library. He had learned to walk quietly so he would not disturb others. I hope I am not bothering you, Your Highness, he said. I was looking for something to read. Zara closed her book quickly. She did not want him to know she had been studying his people. You may enter, she said formally. Jake walked into the library and looked around. His eyes grew wide with wonder. This is incredible, he said. I have never seen so many books in one place. Do humans not have libraries? Zara asked. We do, Jake replied. But nothing like this. This collection must contain millions of books. He walked to a nearby shelf and looked at the titles. Most were written in the Valkyrian language, which he was trying to learn. What were you reading? Jake asked politely. Zara hesitated. Then she decided to be honest. I was reading about your people, about Earth's history. Jake nodded. What did you think? I do not understand humans, Zara said. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the purple sun was setting behind the crystal towers. You fight. Terrible wars. You kill millions of your own people. But then you show kindness to your enemies. It makes no sense. Jake moved to stand beside her at the window. He was careful to keep a respectful distance. You are right, he said. Humans are not logical like Valkyrians. We do things that seem crazy even to ourselves. Then why do you do them? Zara asked. Jake thought for a moment. Because we believe some things are more important than logic. We believe in hope, even when hope seems foolish. We believe in fighting for what is right even when we cannot win. Zara turned to look at him. That sounds like a recipe for disaster, Jake smiled. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it leads to miracles. They stood in comfortable silence for a while. The library was peaceful and quiet. Crystal lamps began to glow as darkness fell outside. Would you like to see something? Jake asked suddenly. What do you mean? Zara replied. I have some recordings from Earth. Videos of human life. Maybe they would help you understand us better. Zara was curious despite herself. What kind of recordings? Different things. Music, art, everyday life, some history too. She nodded slowly. Very well, show me. Jake led her to a small viewing room next to the library. He connected a small device to the wall screen. Images began to appear. The first video showed a human city. But unlike Valkyrian cities, this one was full of green plants. Trees lined the streets. Flowers grew in small gardens. Children played in parks filled with grass and trees. Why do you waste so much space on plants? Zara asked. We do not think it is waste, Jake replied. Plants make us happy. They remind us that life is beautiful. The next video showed humans helping each other after a natural disaster. Valkyrians would have helped only their own families, but these humans were helping complete strangers. They shared food and water with people they had never met. This is inefficient, Zara said. Why help people who are not related to you? Because they need help, Jake said simply. Because it is the right thing to do. Zara watched more videos. She saw human art, which was strange and emotional. She saw human music, which made no logical sense but somehow moved her. She saw humans caring for their elderly and sick, even when those people could no longer contribute to society. Your people are very strange, she said finally. Yes, we are, Jake agreed. But our strangeness has helped us survive. How? Jake changed the video to show something from human military history. This is the Battle of Thermopylae, he said. 300 Spartan warriors faced an army of hundreds of thousands. Zara watched as the small group of humans fought against impossible odds. They knew they could not win. They knew they would all die. But they fought anyway. Why? She asked. Why did they not surrender? They could have lived. They fought to give their people time to prepare. They died so that others could live. To them, that was more valuable than their own lives. Zara was quiet for a long time. On Velkros, warriors fought for glory and conquest. The idea of fighting, just to help others, was foreign to her. Show me more, she said. Jake showed her videos of human exploration. Humans had traveled to dangerous places just to learn new things. They had sailed across vast oceans in tiny boats. They had climbed the highest mountains. They had even left their own planet to explore space. You take such risks for so little reward, Zara observed. The reward is knowledge, Jake explained. The reward is proving that impossible things are possible. The next video showed something that shocked Zara even more. It was about human democracy. She watched as ordinary people chose their leaders by voting. The leaders served for only a few years and then stepped down. This is chaos, Zara said. How can a civilization survive when the leaders keep changing? It is messy, Jake admitted. But it means our leaders must serve the people, not the other way around. On Velcros, the royal family had ruled for thousands of years. The idea of ordinary people choosing their leaders seemed impossible. Your Highness, Jake said carefully, may I ask you something? Zara nodded. What do you want from life? What would make you happy? The question surprised her. No one had ever asked her that before. As a princess, her life was planned for her. She would marry, produce heirs, and eventually become queen. I do not know, she said honestly. I have never thought about it. On Earth, we believe every person should have the chance to choose their own path in life, Jake said. Even women, Zara asked. Especially women. Some of our greatest leaders and warriors have been women. This was hard for Zara to believe. On Velcros, females were protected and kept safe. They did not fight or lead. Tell me about human women, she said. Jake showed her more videos. She saw human women as doctors, scientists, pilots, and soldiers. She saw them leading armies and governing nations. She saw them exploring space and discovering new worlds. Amy Foster, my lieutenant, is one of the best officers I have ever served with, Jake said. She is brave, smart, and strong. I would trust her with my life. Zara thought about this. She had always been told that females needed protection, but maybe humans had found a different way. Do human women ever regret having such freedom? She asked. Some choose traditional paths, Jake said. Others choose adventure. The important thing is that they choose. They watched videos late into the night. Zara saw humans creating art, exploring science, and building amazing things. She saw them fail and try again. She saw them help each other through hard times. There is something I do not understand, she said as the last video ended. If humans care so much about freedom and choice, why did you agree to this arranged marriage? Why did you not choose your own wife? Jake was quiet for a moment. Because sometimes we must sacrifice our personal wants for a greater good. This marriage might prevent a war. It might save millions of lives on both sides. So you are giving up your freedom to protect others? Yes. Even though you have never met those people? Even though they are not your family? Yes. Zara stared at him. You really would sacrifice your own happiness for strangers? If it meant peace between our peoples, yes. She began to understand something about humans that all her books could not teach her. They were not just strange or illogical. They were willing to suffer for principles they believed in. Jake, she said, using his first name for the first time. Do you think I am a terrible person for not wanting this marriage? He looked at her with kind eyes. I think you are honest about your feelings. That takes courage. Are you afraid? She asked. Yes, he admitted. I'm afraid of many things. I am afraid I will not be a good husband. I'm afraid I will not understand your culture well enough. I'm afraid this marriage will not bring the peace we hope for. But you will do it anyway? Yes. Zara felt something she had never felt before. It was respect, but deeper than that. It was the beginning of understanding that this small human might be stronger than any Valkyrian she had ever known. I have been reading about human customs, she said quietly. About how your people choose their partners. Jake nodded. We call it falling in love. Do you think that could ever happen with us? She asked. Two people from such different worlds? Jake smiled gently. I think anything is possible, Your Highness. Humans have learned never to give up on miracles. For the first time since hearing about the marriage, Princess Zara felt something other The alarm sounds rang through the Crystal Palace like thunder. Princess Zara had never heard such terrible noise before. Red lights flashed in every hallway. Valkyrian guards ran in all directions. Zara found Jake in the war room with Queen Nyxera and the Valkyrian generals. His face was serious as he studied the star maps on the wall screens. "What is happening?" Zara asked her mother. Queen Nyxera's scales had turned dark with fear. "The Zarathi horde has entered our space. They are 3 days away from our outer colonies." Zara felt her blood turn cold. Every child in the galaxy knew about the Zarathi. They were monsters who destroyed entire worlds. They ate everything living and moved on like a plague of insects. "How many ships do they have?" General Vorthak asked. "Our scouts report over 10,000 vessels," replied General Corex, the fleet commander. "We have maybe 3,000 ships in the outer systems." The room fell silent. Everyone knew these numbers meant certain defeat. "We must retreat to the core worlds," General Corex said. "Pull back all our fleets. Abandon the outer colonies. That means leaving 50 million Valkyrians to die," Queen Nyxera said quietly. "Better than losing everything," General Vorthak replied. "The Zarathi cannot be stopped by conventional warfare. No one has ever defeated them in open battle." Jake had been listening without speaking. Now he stepped forward. "Your Majesty, may I suggest another option?" The Valkyrian generals looked at him with surprise. What could a human possibly suggest that they had not already thought of? "Speak, Queen," Nyxera said. Jake pointed to the star map. "Instead of retreating, we could make a stand here at the Kalos system. It has natural choke points that would force the Zarathi into smaller groups." General Corex laughed. "Make a stand? Against 10,000 Zarathi ships? That is suicide." "Maybe," Jake said calmly. "But retreating means certain death for the colonies. At least this way we fight for something." "You do not understand," General Vorthak said. "The Zarathi are not like other enemies. They do not fear death. They do not retreat. They just keep coming until everything is destroyed." "I understand. Perfectly," Jake replied. "That is exactly why we need to fight differently than anyone has ever fought them before." Princess Zara watched Jake's face. She had learned to read his expressions over the past few weeks. He was not being reckless. He had a plan. "What are you thinking?" she asked him. Jake turned to the star map and pointed to several positions. "The Zarathi strength comes from their numbers and their willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. But that can also be their weakness." "Explain," Queen Nyxera commanded. "We create a series of defensive positions here, here, and here," Jake said, marking spots on the map. "Each position is designed to delay the enemy, not stop them completely." "Delay them for what?" General Corex asked. "For time. Time to evacuate. Civilians. Time to prepare the next defensive line. Time for help to arrive." General Vorthak shook his head. "What help? Every other race in the galaxy runs from the Zarathi. We would be alone." "Not alone," Jake said. "I can contact the human colonies. If we combine our forces, we might have a chance." "Human ships are weak," General Corex protested. "They would be destroyed in minutes." "Human ships are different," Jake corrected. "They are built for different kinds of warfare." Princess Zara remembered the videos Jake had shown her. She remembered the stories of humans who fought against impossible odds. "I will go with the fleet," she announced suddenly. Everyone in the room stared at her. Valkyrian princesses did not go to war. "Absolutely not," Queen Nyxera said firmly. "It is too dangerous." "Mother, if our people are going to die fighting, then I should be there with them," Zara said. "It is my duty as their future queen." Jake looked at her with surprise and respect. "Your Highness, space combat is very dangerous. Even our best warriors sometimes do not survive." "Then I will learn to be a warrior," Zara replied. "You showed me videos of human women who fight alongside their men. Why should Valkyrian women be any different?" The room erupted in arguments. The general said it was impossible. Queen Nyxera said it was too risky. But Zara had made up her mind. "I am going," she said with finality. "Jake will need someone who knows Valkyrian tactics and customs. I will be his advisor." Queen Nyxera realized she could not change her daughter's mind. "Very well," she said sadly. "But you will stay on the command ship, away from the worst fighting." 2. Days later, the combined human and Valkyrian fleets gathered at the Kalos system. Zara stood on the bridge of the flagship watching the preparations. The human ships looked strange next to the Valkyrian vessels. They were smaller and less elegant, but Jake had explained that they were built for speed and flexibility, not just raw power. Amy Foster had arrived with the human fleet. She now served as Jake's second in command. Zara had been nervous about meeting her, but Amy was professional and friendly. "Your Highness," Amy said, approaching Zara on the bridge, "Captain Morrison asked me to brief you on human battle tactics." "Please call me Zara," the princess said. "If we are going to fight together, we should be friends." Amy smiled. "Thank you, Zara. Now let me explain how humans fight differently." For the next hour, Amy taught Zara about human military thinking. It was completely different from Valkyrian methods. "Valkyrians fight to win with minimal losses," Amy explained. "Humans fight to accomplish the mission, regardless of losses." "That seems wasteful," Zara said. "Sometimes it is, but sometimes it is the only way to protect what matters most." Jake joined them as the enemy fleet appeared on the sensors. The Zarathi ships looked like a swarm of angry insects. There were so many of them that they blocked out the stars. "All ships, this is Captain Morrison," Jake announced over the communication system. "Today we fight not just for victory, but for the right of free peoples to exist. The Zarathi believe that only the strong deserve to live. We are going to prove them wrong." The first battle began an hour later. The Zarathi attacked with overwhelming force just as expected. But the combined fleet was ready. Human ships darted between the enemy vessels like tiny fish around sharks. They used hit-and-run tactics, striking quickly and disappearing before the Zarathi could respond. Valkyrian ships formed the main battle line, using their superior firepower to destroy Zarathi vessels. But they also did something they had never done before. They deliberately sacrificed positions to lure enemies into traps. Zara watched in amazement as Jake coordinated the battle. He seemed to think 10 steps ahead of the enemy. When the Zarathi expected the fleet to retreat, he ordered an attack. When they expected an attack, he ordered a withdrawal. "How do you know what they will do?" she asked him. "I do not know," Jake replied, never taking his eyes off the battle screens. "But I know what I would do in their position. Then I do something different." The battle lasted for 6 hours. When it ended, the Zarathi had lost nearly 2,000 ships. But the cost was high. The combined fleet had lost 800 vessels. "We cannot keep fighting like this," General Vorthak said. "We will run out of ships before they do." "We do not need to destroy all their ships," Jake explained. "We just need to delay them long enough." "Long enough for what?" Zara asked. Jake smiled grimly. "Long enough for them to make a mistake." Over the next week, they fought 3 more battles. Each time, the combined fleet retreated to the next defensive position. Each time, they made the Zarathi pay a heavy price for their advance. But the losses were terrible. Thousands of brave pilots died in the fighting. Zara saw ships explode with all hands aboard. She saw friends die in the cold darkness of space. "Why? Do they do it?" she asked Jake after the 4th battle. "Why do they keep fighting when they know they might die?" Jake looked out at the stars where so many had died. "Because someone has to. Because if we do not fight, who will protect the innocent people behind us?" Zara was beginning to understand something about courage. It was not the absence of fear. It was doing what was right, despite the fear. The final battle came when the Zarathi reached the last defensive position. This was where Jake planned to make his final stand. "All ships," he announced. "This is our last chance. Behind us are the core worlds with billions of innocent people. We will not let the Zarathi pass." The battle was the fiercest yet. The Zarathi threw everything they had at the defensive line. Human ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Valkyrian vessels fought until their weapons ran out of power. But something unexpected happened. The Zarathi, used to easy victories, became frustrated by the determined resistance. They began making tactical errors, rushing into obvious traps in their eagerness to destroy the stubborn defenders. Jake saw his opportunity. "All ships, prepare for Operation Lighthouse," he ordered. Zara did not know what Operation Lighthouse was, but she saw the effect immediately. Every human ship in the fleet suddenly accelerated straight at the center of the Zarathi formation. "They are committing suicide," General Vorthak shouted. "No," Jake said quietly. "They are saving us all." The human ships crashed into the Zarathi center like a spear thrust. They were destroyed, but they created a gap in the enemy formation. Through that gap, the remaining Valkyrian ships poured like water through a broken dam. Caught off guard and divided, the Zarathi fleet began to collapse. For the first time in their history, they started to retreat. "We did it," Zara whispered in amazement. "We actually did it." Jake nodded. The wedding day arrived 6 months after the great victory over the Zarathi horde. The Crystal Palace had been decorated with flowers from both Earth and Velcros. Representatives from dozens of worlds had come to witness the historic ceremony. "Princess." Zara stood in her private chambers, looking at herself in the mirror. Her wedding dress was a masterpiece of both human and Valkyrian design. It was made of silver fabric that changed color like her scales, but it was cut in the flowing style that human women preferred. Queen Nexira entered the room. Her old scales showed pride and joy. "You look beautiful, my daughter." "Thank you, Mother," Zara replied. "Are you sure we are doing the right thing?" "Look out your window," Queen Nexira said. Zara walked to the large crystal window. Below, in the palace courtyard, thousands of people had gathered. But they were not just Valkyrians. Humans, Altarians, Centaurians, and dozens of other species stood together in celebration. 6 months ago, those people would have been fighting each other, Queen Nexira said. Now they come together in peace. That is why this marriage is important. Zara nodded. She had learned much about the power of symbols during her time with Jake. Sometimes the most important battles were fought not with weapons, but with hope. "How do you feel about Jake now?" her mother asked gently. Zara thought about the question. 6 months ago, she would have said she hated him, but now, "I respect him," she said honestly. "I admire his courage and his kindness, but love, I am not sure I understand what humans mean by that word." "Love grows slowly like a crystal," Queen Nexira said. "Give it time." A soft knock came at the door. A servant entered and bowed. "Your Highness, it is time." Zara took a deep breath. "I am ready." The great hall had been transformed for the ceremony. Crystal pillars rose to the ceiling, wrapped in flowers from a dozen worlds. Guests filled every seat, and millions more watched. On screens throughout the galaxy, Jake waited at the altar. He wore a uniform that combined human military style with Valkyrian royal colors. He looked nervous but determined. When he saw Zara walking down the aisle, his face lit up with genuine happiness. Zara felt her hearts beating fast. She had 2 hearts like all Valkyrians, and both were racing. She was not sure if it was fear or excitement. The ceremony combined traditions from both cultures. They exchanged rings as humans did, but also mixed their blood as Valkyrians did. They spoke vows in both languages. When Jake spoke his vows, his words were simple but sincere. "Zara, I promise to respect your people and your customs. I promise to protect your world as I would protect my own. I promise to be worthy of the trust you and your mother have placed in me." Zara's vows were longer and more formal, as was the Valkyrian way. But at the end, she added something that was not in the traditional ceremony. "Jake Morrison, you have taught me that strength comes in many forms. You have shown me that small acts of courage can change the world. I promise to learn from your wisdom, as I hope you will learn from mine." When they kissed to seal the marriage, the entire hall erupted in cheers. Humans whistled and applauded. Valkyrians made the deep humming sound that showed their approval. Other species added their own celebration customs. At the reception, Zara and Jake moved among their guests. She was amazed by how many different types of beings had come to celebrate with them. General Vorthak, the Velkarian warrior who had challenged Jake months ago, now treated the human captain like a beloved brother. "You fight with honor, Prince Jake," the general said. "I am proud to serve under your command." "And I am honored to learn from your experience, General," Jake replied. Zara watched this exchange with wonder. Just a few months ago, these two had been ready to kill each other. Now they were planning joint military exercises. A human diplomat approached them. "Your Highnesses, I bring greetings from Earth. Your marriage has inspired many humans to learn about Velkarian culture." "And many Velkarians want to visit Earth," Zara replied. "We are planning student exchange programs." As the evening went on, Zara found herself relaxing and actually enjoying the celebration. She danced with Jake to both human and Velkarian music. She laughed at human jokes and told Velkarian stories. Late in the night, when most of the guests had gone home, Jake and Zara walked together in the palace gardens. These gardens were new. Zara had ordered them built after seeing Jake's videos of Earth. "Do you regret it?" Jake asked as they sat on a crystal bench among the flowering trees. "Regret what?" Zara replied. "This marriage. Giving up your freedom to marry a stranger." Zara considered the question carefully. "I thought I was giving up my freedom," she said finally, "but I think I was actually gaining it." "How do you mean?" "Before I met you, I never questioned anything. I never wondered if there might be different ways to live or think. You opened my mind to new possibilities." Jake nodded. "You did the same for me. Humans sometimes think we have all the answers. Living here has taught me that wisdom comes from many sources." They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the night sounds of the alien world that was now Jake's home. "Jake," Zara said quietly, "do you think our children will understand both worlds, human and Velkarian?" "I hope so," Jake replied. "I hope they will take the best from both cultures." "What would that look like?" Zara asked. Jake thought for a moment. Velkarian strength and wisdom combined with human adaptability and hope. They would be formidable. "In a good way, I hope," Zara said with a small laugh. "Definitely in a good way." A year later, Zara stood in the same garden, but now she was not alone. In her arms, she held her infant son. He was small like a human baby, but his skin had a slight iridescent quality that hinted at his Velkarian heritage. Jake approached from the palace carrying their second child, a daughter. She had Jake's brown eyes, but Zara's ability to sense emotions in others. "How are they today?" Zara asked. "Curious about everything," Jake replied with a tired but happy smile. "Just like their parents." The children were remarkable. They seemed to understand both human speech and Velkarian thought patterns from an early age. They showed human creativity combined with Velkarian discipline, but more importantly, other species had begun to see the possibilities. Mixed marriages between humans and other aliens were becoming more common. Children who could think in multiple ways were solving problems that had puzzled single-species minds for generations. "The ambassador from the Centauri Republic is coming next week," Zara told Jake. "She wants to discuss a trade agreement." 6 months ago, they would not even answer. "Our communications," Jake observed. "Much has changed." Indeed, much had changed throughout the galaxy. The defeat of the Zerathi had sent shockwaves through space. For the first time, the supposedly unstoppable force had been stopped. Other aggressive species began to reconsider their expansion plans. More importantly, the way the victory had been achieved, through cooperation between different species, had inspired others to try similar alliances. "Your Highnesses," a servant approached and bowed. "Queen Nexira requests your presence in the throne room." They found the Queen meeting with a delegation of human scientists and Velkarian researchers. The two groups were excitedly discussing a new discovery. "Ah, perfect timing," Queen Nexira said. "Tell them what you have found." Dr. Lisa Parker, the lead human scientist, stepped forward. "Your Highnesses, by combining human creativity with Velkarian mathematical precision, we have solved the faster-than-light communication problem." What does that mean? Jake asked. It means instant communication across any distance, replied Dr. Korvex, the Velkarian physicist. Ships separated by thousands of light years can talk to each other in real time. Zara understood the implications immediately. This will change everything. Space exploration, trade, military coordination. It is just the beginning, Queen, Nexira said with satisfaction. When different minds work together, they achieve things that neither could accomplish alone. That evening, Jake and Zara put their children to bed and walked out onto their private balcony. The stars seemed brighter than usual, full of promise and possibility. Do you ever wonder what our lives would have been like if we had never met? Zara asked. Jake considered this. I think I would have lived a much smaller life. I would have remained on human worlds, never seeing the wonders of the wider galaxy. And I would have remained in this palace, never understanding that there were other ways to see the world, Zara replied. A shooting star streaked across the purple sky. On Earth, humans made wishes on shooting stars. Zara had adopted this custom. What did you wish for? Jake asked. That our children will grow up in a galaxy where diversity is seen as strength, not weakness, Zara said. That is a good wish. What about you? Jake smiled. I wish that somewhere on some distant world, there is another alien princess yelling at her mother about having to marry a human. Zara laughed, a sound that combined human humor with Velkarian musical tones. And another human captain agreeing, to marry someone he has never met just because it might bring peace. Exactly, as they stood together under alien stars, holding hands and watching their strange but wonderful world. Both of them knew that they had found something rare and precious. Not just love between two individuals, but understanding between two species. Their marriage had started as a political necessity, but it had become something much more important. A bridge between worlds, a symbol of hope, HFY